set up a new project. Coming from our Help menu here, we go to Projects. What factors should I consider before creating a new project? It's important to establish how you want to communicate with your client, as well as what information do you want to track for yourself. With entering everything into a database, this allows you to have real-time tracking of your project P&L. You can share whatever information you want with your client. And at the same time, it's a simplified way of entering the information. The intent is that you set up your project from the beginning in the contract to cover everything to the completion of that project. For example, what factors should I consider before creating a new project? The first is decide what type of project you're going to enter. Is it a time and materials or a fixed price? That will then adjust the types of expense items or the number of expense items that you would set up. What is an expense item? This diagram helps explain what an expense item is inside MyBusinessMobile. It is really the center of the tracking system. When you create your project, you then have the ability to add expense items. An expense item is how you'll enter bills against it, you'll enter time against it, your subcontractors are entered against rentals, a refund or a credit, an overdue invoice, and your expense items then go directly to your invoices. So now let's go back. If you look at, it's important to plan out how you want to track your project from the beginning. How do I want my P&L tracked? What does my client expect to see? How will I invoice for this project? How do I want expenses entered against this project? Will I have a mix of fixed price and time and materials? All of this should be thought of prior to starting your project. A few other items. How do I want to monitor my profit and loss? What information does my client want to see during the project? How many invoices am I going to use during this project? Will there be a schedule? With that information in mind, let's go ahead and review a project. Upon setting this project up, I had discussed with the homeowner what types of things would be included in the scope of this installing a new kitchen. And I went ahead and itemized all of the items that be included. Some are fixed priced and some are allowances, such as materials. So they're expected to pay that amount whether it is within the budget or above the budget. With that in mind, each of these expense items now are set up in a way that I can track my bills for materials or labor or subs against that specific expense item. For example, I set up an expense item as the electrical. Then I gave them a copy of the contract that I had received from my subcontractor. I carry a standard 20% overhead on all my subcontractors, and so that's calculated and carried here for the homeowner to see. And you can tell from the very initial contract that overhead charge of materials, subs, and rentals was automatically included. So now, when I go to invoice for this, it's based on the payment plan. The payment plan I've set up shows milestone completions of different aspects. So now, how do you set up your invoicing based on this system? Merely by setting everything on the same invoice and just requesting a statement. As I have set apart here, contract invoice number 1. When I created the expense items in the contract, my invoice was automatically set up for me. As you can see, all of it has been set forward, and I merely make payments towards a single invoice. Simplifies the paperwork.